I realized I was going to be closing the event with a subject, has always been a subject of passion for me, is talking about where I'm from. So tonight, this evening, I thought I'd share about growing up and taking notice in early childhood. So Chico alluded to early education on arts. I had that very privilege of growing up surrounded by elders, as well as nature, which is probably what defined me to who I am today. In a world that we are defined or marked, our successes are marked with modern medicine, information technology, solid buildings. Oftentimes for me, I lack the ability to separate who I am from where I am at that current place, in a current place. Right now I'm sitting in Suva, I live here. When Sharon asked me as to how would I be rephrased, I said, I am a daughter of Rotuma. It defines everything that I do, everything that I've been, and everything that I will continue to do. So I have, growing up with an ocean of discoveries or a lagoon of discoveries, the slides provide us a myriad of those stories, of my stories, a generation of us who were born in Suva but taken back to be brought up amongst the old women, the cousins, and a village full of people. So my memories of growing up on Rotuma was always surrounded by greens and blues and red and noise, colors by what we see, what we hear. Those were our learning. I've always been an inquisitive child, and in most specific cultures, you're not supposed to be asking too many questions. But being surrounded by elders, it allows me to learn from them, just by observing. And an old man of the sea is really been a true connection to life on an island, where beyond the horizon, we do not know where Tonga is. Of course, we know the direction where that boat sailed from Fiji. Still today, I regard Suva as mainland Fiji, and Rotuma has always been Rotuma, separate, as if it's another country. You might as well stamp a visa with the costs of travel. So, growing up in Rotuma, the past speakers, I connect to each part of your story, and then realize that living a life of gratitude. This old man of the sea, his name was Mapinga Metusela. You would find him at exactly the same spot under his grove of coconut trees, watching towards Afngaha, which is an island located on the southeast corner of my village. He can tell you everything and anything. Growing up as a child, it was, when I would relay this to my friends, which none of them are here, by the way, it's an old story. It's a never-ending story whenever I am granted that opportunity. This old man of the sea can tell you the direction of the trade winds. We have names for those. We have local names. If the winds are blowing from the Tonga region, he's never ventured beyond his canoe to the horizon. But he has this wealth of knowledge. For someone like me to grow up in an environment like that, it's definitely a gift. In early childhood, and then coming here for university, that skill of deduction and experiential learning. Because in Rotuma, it's all about what you see, what you hear, and custom of practice. That is our education growing up. Still to date, I really can't acquire to the taste of cheese I'm 39 going on 40. And it's amazing, it's not like I've not ventured out of Fiji, but it's tastes and sounds and feelings that still connects me to Rotuma today. Takes me away far, far from the island I grew up in and the lagoon of mysteries that Mapiong Metusela, this old man, would cultivate this culture and this knowledge of practice. I'm an environmentalist. I'm not a greenie, because I learned from young that you need to survive. Your fingers need to be dirty. You've got to plow. You've got to get wet. You've got to shed cuts. These days, the scars are a lot less risky to health because, well, we live in mainland Fiji. Reconnecting back home. From a child growing up, coming back here on university, the skill of deduction, it is very true. You learn from being around, connecting. I'm not techno-savvy as yet, but I'd like to choose to navigate who I am now based on what I've learned and listened in the past. So these slides of pictures really is showing this is the mysteries of my lagoon. Change. Taking notice of change. In a generation of less than a decade, as a child growing up, I noticed my lagoon changed from that of beautiful, tranquil beach life, as you can imagine, for Fiji, to this. My grandfather talked about changes. The winds would shift. Then it would blow the sand. It would move it from the east towards the northwest. My grandmother was a symbol of fishing. It was not about fisher. I did not understand why it is always about a fisherman, because I grew up with the knowledge of a fisherwoman, fisherwomen, and fishing girls. This deterred learning more about it. The shift of the current shifted and transformed my lagoon as how I would learn from my grandmother. This brought us 10 years ago where a group of young Rotumans shared a common vision. We wanted to understand the changes that were happening. And so we needed to take the means to learn from the changes. This is home. This has always been the visage of home and identity. In Rotuma, when that change happened, LäjeRotuma as it is known, a group of us who were brought up on the island wanted to share because we've been taking notice. We were a generation that we took nature and learning from our elders and living in an environment that you have to connect to your natural surroundings. Allowed us to use this to investigate, to observe, research, learn more about it. We were fusing what we've learned in Western schools with what the knowledge of our elders who would usually share with us. We were fusing education and local knowledge. Over the years, what we did learn really is from taking notice and understanding the changes as a means to effect a positive outcome for Rotuma, in creating a ecological, a balance view of making decisions. Our elders, our authorities, we eventually became that of our elders. So LäjeRotuma culminated on that spirit. We learned from our elders, we listened, and we also shared what we brought back from the university days. It's still not up to par, but it's become who I am now. Now, the third part of my story is really about what are my footprints since I've left Rotuma? Since I've left Rotuma and still try to connect. Of course, there were apparent changes that we could not, till to date, figure out. But it is always, as Mapiong Metusela used to say, you learn, and just like the wind, it will bring it all right back into place. As a marine scientist, it has always been a pleasure for me to be out at sea. It connects me to that man, connects me to my grandmother, but it also connects me to my natural instinct, which in this day and age, in all the projects and all the planning, you sometimes get lost in all that noise. For me, my friends and people that know me call me stubborn, but mainly because I do not allow the changes around me to navigate where I decide. Maybe I learned it at young, whereby in Rotuma, whenever we are out to collect sand, or whether we are out in the bushland, all the varied noise that you would get from the bushland allows you to determine or know. You'd always want to be the kid that knows what bird was that. Or maybe it was someone whistling to connect to one of the kids. So as a child, and up till to date, I think one of the things that we'd like to take home is, what are our footprints? As an environmentalist, when I turn on the tap, I worry about, where did this water come from? If I leave a tap running, which I also wonder, as it goes down the drain, where does it end up in? We do not need to be environmentalists. In this day and age, and with our current situation, I think it is, whether you be interacting with nature for lessons, or whether it be for studies or research, or being just back in the community where they still have to grow or still have to fish for their foods, to really connect. So for me, it would be always considering, what are my footprints? Going back to Rotuma, you see a man. I like photographs because it helps capture roles. It helps share or create an image about how life was. Sometimes it's not really a romantic idea of life on the islands, really. For those of us that have moved away, and our cousins that still live there, we connect with the stories. We connect with photographs. We take it back and we show them. Then they would always look back with a fresher perspective on things. So with these photographs, a man carves a canoe and during the day and weaves at night. It's not reverse roles, really. He has both skills. The women fishing. Being out at sea also connects to not just the way of life, but the mysteries of my lagoon. Till to date, I'm still learning and relearning all the changes that are happening in that lagoon. And that is what some of us were doing with LäjeRotuma. Reconnecting with the old stories about fishing, reconnecting with the changes that are happening, based on shift in practice and value. Back to what are my footprints? Maybe it was never about my footprints, but reconnecting with people around me. I hope this conversation and the start of this event, today I've learned 8 different stories, including mine, each time I share it. With the privilege of growing up in Rotuma, have I lost the natural instinct to connect both to the environment I grew in, the people that I've grown up with, but also learning from the present time where I'm actually removed from my island, but never far away. A lasting impression on Rotuma for me would have been, what did I leave behind? At this age, I shouldn't really be talking about what did I leave behind. What was the motivating means of LäjeRotuma to have inspired young people to think about, on Rotuma, young Rotuman people, to think about giving back. Giving back to our communities for which we were nurtured in. Then you'd never go wrong. Thank you.